Hey guys, before we officially pronounce this video started, I just wanted to give a couple of shoutouts and a couple of things that are going to be happening in this whole video. Anyway, first things first, I want to give a big shout out to the development team of the game. They really did a good job on the tablet version of the game. I was playing it on my emulator on my computer obviously, and while filming some B-roll, I'm like, holy crap, this runs really well. Aside from like having 30 million arts on a single planet, it runs very smoothly. It's buttery smooth. And I thought, wow, this would be really cool if it was made into the desktop version, if they made some modifications and add some shortcut keys or key presses and so forth. This thing would be really cool for a desktop version, I think. What do you guys think? Leave that in the comments. But anyway, other than that, I just wanted to let you know there will be an amazing announcement at the very end of this video, so stick around. Without further ado, let's just get started, and yes. Alrighty, so why have I brought you in today? You know why I brought you in today. It's because we're going to be talking about warp gates and scanner placement. So first things first, warp gates. They are the most interesting and most exciting part of the game and most expensive and most annoying thing in the world if you don't know how to use them properly. So let me jump right into it. Alright, so first things first. Let me just get this out of the way just in case you were like me and I was a total idiot. I didn't realize this until I was like level 80. Warp gates are bought in pairs, so if you spend that first 50 grand of credits, you're actually buying both warp gates. You don't just buy a single gate and then, you know, the second gate costs double that. Every time you buy that station area or in the building thing and the listing, it will always be a pair of gates. It will never be one. And the other thing to note is as you progress and buy more and more, the value will generally double until I think you reach 1.5 million. And that way it will just start to be a little weird from that point forward. But it will just generally double every time you buy every consecutive gate afterwards when you first started. That being said, when you first get a gateway, or 2 gateways rather, what do you do with them? Well, essentially when you get your first couple of gates, you don't really have much to do with it. You know, it's more of a convenience thing. You can't really use shipment drone because you need to interconnect your planets in order for that to be useful, so having just one pair won't really do much for you. So when you're first beginning, my recommendation is just to use it for convenience. Like if you have a really big sector or a really big system, just use it to help you get from one point to the other, especially if you're doing shipments manually, which sucks. And that will just speed up the process a little bit so it makes it a little less painful. When you move on from that point though, that's when it gets a little bit more interesting, and that's what I'll discuss next. Alright, now that you have your multi-gateway setup, what should you be prioritizing? Basically, and this is the rule of thumb when you're setting up gateways, especially when you're automating your system for shipments, you want to do it as efficiently as possible without it costing 1 million hydro to do it, basically. So what does that mean? Well, essentially, if you're going to set up a hub, which a lot of players do, and you can look at my system a little bit, set up a little bit like that, you want to set it up so it's not so far away from each planet you're setting it to that it makes it extremely expensive. Also, you don't want to set it up so that one planet or sector is connected directly to every single planet. The reason you don't want to do that is because you'll run into cases where, you know, there's 2 planets right next to each other, but they're both really far away, and if you connect both those planets to your hub, I mean, that's going to cost you like 1,000 hydrogen. So the more efficient route to go through there is to connect one to the really far planet, to one of the really far planets, and then connect a shorter one from the really far one to the second really far one. And there you go, really efficient hydrogen setup there. But anyway, that's all you really want to do with these gates. And then obviously the other thing you should know is you can't fully 100% automate your systems. It doesn't work that way anymore, or it never did actually, because apparently I guess they don't want us to completely automate it. That being said though, here's a couple of pointers. For one thing, do not set up one of those gates for your trade stations. The reason you don't want to do that is because essentially they have really... It's just not the most efficient setup that I've seen. They don't generally get a lot of shipments to them from what I've observed, or if they do, it's just weird for some reason. I don't particularly like that setup. You could do it if you'd like, if you feel like it gives you more, like it has a lot of demand in terms of planet shipment generation toward it, but I generally just don't do that, and a lot of people don't do that either. So yeah, what you could do with your stations though is if you have a hub you can actually set it up so it's as close as possible to your hub sector. So you're literally squeezing against the borders to make it as close as possible, so if you have to do those manually, you waste as little time as possible doing that. The other thing you'll notice pretty much is that your planets, your beginner planets, while they suck for like generating good value shipments themselves because they're only tier 1, they actually get a lot of shipments to them. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. Basically, you know, well, and also, there's just because of that reason, you know, you have that one sector with 2 planets in it, you definitely want to connect that sector to your other, whatever your system, whatever your setup is, you want to connect that sector because it always has a lot of shipments getting sent to it, which makes it a very valuable setup. And also, this is an odd one. I noticed that the water planet, the tier 1 water planet, also gets a lot of shipments toward it. That's why I have it connected to it, otherwise I wouldn't have bothered. Because it gets a lot of shipments and it's like really far away, and it makes it awkward if I'm trying to automate everything and then having to do manual ones. It's just, it makes it a little easier, and yeah. So that's just a foresight. If you notice something different, of course, make the adjustments. Again, the general rule of thumb, be as efficient as possible. So if whatever I'm telling you at the moment doesn't work for you, just keep that in mind and figure it out on your own, because it could be a little different, honestly. It doesn't necessarily, you know, there's no cookie cutter way of doing this necessarily. So yeah. Anyway, that being said, that's really the basics of that specific topic. So I'll just move on to the next one, which is scanner placement. This one's a little bit tricky, and if you haven't watched the video or you haven't looked at the wiki and so forth, definitely pay attention to this section. The reason is because you can actually screw this up. And yes, even if you do screw up, you can technically get it done, but it would just cost you a lot more credits than it needed to begin with. Anyway, that being said, I'm just going to go quickly through the basics of how scanners work, essentially. You know, you have a scanner, you can build it for X amount of credits, and then place it, and then you can reveal whatever adjacent sectors are connected to that sector that scanner was placed to. So, there's a couple of fundamentals you need to understand in order to see the reason why it's so vital to get this right the first time. So, once you place a scanner, that's it. You cannot move it or destroy it. Well, you can move it, but you can't move it to a different sector. So, you're basically, once you make that decision, it is final. That being said, if you make a mistake, then you can't really change it. So, that's where it gets complicated, and that's why you want to understand how they work and how these methods work. Now, the circle method, if you understand what I mean by that, I'll show you a graph just to get that across so you know what I mean. Just goes around the entire system. You do it in pairs of 3 or groups of 3 each time you get a new scanner, until I think your last one or your second to last one or whatever it is just 2 additional sectors. And that's what I've personally gone for. So as you can see in my system, if we go around it, you know, I will get 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 each time once I go around. And that way it's just efficient, and it's not going to cost me 3 million or 10 billion credits or whatever. Okay, there are 2 other methods that are also used to reveal sectors. They are called the spiral technique and the semicircle. I don't use either of these, so I don't know too much about them, but essentially the semicircle technique is supposed to be a variation of the normal circle technique, which is what I use, and it's supposed to be more efficient in the long run, I believe, based on what I understand. The other one is the spiral technique. It sort of isn't crazy efficient, and it'll probably cost you more in the long run from what I understand, but it will be efficient or advantageous at the beginning or closer to the beginning of the game than toward end game. Anyway, you know, these different methods have their obvious advantages and disadvantages, so definitely check out the link down below to the wiki, which shows you all these different points, and then you can understand and make an educated decision so you can choose what's best for you. I just want to make sure you know the fundamentals so you don't screw up and then be like, oh my god, I didn't know I could change this, or I couldn't change this, or whatever, and then you just rage quit and leave the game, and then you say Texio sucks because he never told me about this. And yeah, that's why I'm telling you now. Alright guys, thank you for watching, and before I officially end, I just wanted to make my announcements. Guys, I really want to thank you. Like, this has been a lot of fun. Honestly, like, coming back, making videos, it gets me all excited and everything. I really do enjoy making videos for you guys, and it's a lot of fun. That being said, guys, I really want to keep this going, and I really have a lot of fun doing this, so I just created a Patreon. Basically, if you've never ever used Patreon before, essentially it's a platform where you can support your favorite creators, give a bit of cash here and there, either through tier levels, which are usually defined, or you can give whatever specific amount you can give, and that way support your favorites content creators, like me, for example, if you believe I am your favorite. What that cash would be used for is just, equipment, software billing, and whatever I need to make the channel and the content really nice for you guys. But anyway, of course, whatever you can donate or pledge, it's completely appreciated. I will 100% acknowledge you and do all sorts of crazy things just to, say thank you. But if you can't, whatever, I don't even mind. I just appreciate that you watch my content and that you enjoy. Just make sure to leave a comment and make sure that you leave a like so I know that I'm being helpful and making good content. Anyway, without further ado, guys, as always, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. And subscribe, hit the like button, do the subscription, not the subscription. Comments, there you go. And hit the bell icon if I haven't said that already. I probably did. Anyway, bye.